I'm going to do an informational presentation. We'll talk about the project that we have announced, and then we'll have some time for questions. If you guys have questions along the way, please save them. We'll take questions at the end, and have some conversation. My name is Nick Phillips. I'm the EVP of External Affairs for Applied Digital. I've got a little bit about me over here on the slide. I've been here with the company since the beginning. We started in 2021. Talk about that a little bit as we go through. Today we'll talk about Applied Digital. We're going to talk about this project, and then, like I said, answer some questions. So, starting off, who's Applied Digital? We design, build, own, and operate data centers around the country. Primarily right now we're focused on North Dakota and the Midwest. So we have 3 different types of facilities that we build. So we've got blockchain data centers, we've got GPUs as a service. I'll talk about that a little bit more, and then we build AI factories. As a company, we started in 2021. We did our first project in Jamestown, starting then as a blockchain facility. That facility started in September of 2021 and started being operational in January of 2022. In 2022, we built a facility down in Texas, and we also started a facility in Ellendale, North Dakota. Then in 2023, we started working on our AI facility in Ellendale. That facility has been under construction for about 2 years now, and it's just starting to turn on. Going into 2024, we continued with that construction, and then this year in 2025, that's just wrapping up for the first building, and then of course we just announced this location here near Harwood. So the 3 campuses here in North Dakota, we have Jamestown, there's about 40 employees there, it's 100 megawatts of blockchain. In Ellendale, there's 180 megawatts of blockchain, and then we have up to 530 megawatts of AI that's been approved down there. This facility in Harwood is announced at 280 megawatts. That's what we've got approval for. We have about 40 employees in Jamestown. We will have 350 employees by the time Ellendale is fully operational. We have somewhere around 75 to 100 right now, depending on exactly where we're at. The first building itself will have about 100. For AI factory, we've got about 30 on the blockchain facility itself. In Harwood, we expect to have about 200 to 250 total workers. Those are on-site full-time workers, not construction workers. I'll talk about that as well. So the first thing to talk about is what is a data center? A lot of folks have a lot of questions. Everybody's hearing about data centers in the news. There's a lot of conversations about what is a data center, what does it do. Very, very simply, it's just a purpose-built facility. It houses a lot of computers. There's different types of data centers. I'm going to talk about all of that. There's a reason that I think it's important for us to understand the differences between the different types of data centers that are out there. So as we go through that, we'll talk about what we do as a company and what some other companies do. There's 3 types. So there's traditional data centers. It's what you're used to interacting with on a daily basis. So things that host websites, social media you go on, Teams, if you're using Teams, when you pick up your cell phone, you're dialing on your cell phone, making phone calls. All of that's going through a traditional data center. Then there's blockchain data centers. Blockchain data centers are purpose-built for blockchain specifically. If you've heard of Bitcoin, that's really the most popular one that's out there, but there's all sorts of other blockchain technologies that exist. And then there's AI factories. AI factories is what we're focused on now. We have built both blockchain and AI factories as a company. I've been in the data center space since 2009, so I've been involved in all 3 of these types of facilities. A traditional data center, like I said earlier, it's going to host websites, voice conferencing, when you're streaming videos, watching Netflix, Hulu, other things like that. You're going to have all sorts of interactions with a traditional data center. The types of data centers are going to be primarily not very dense. So the average data center today on the traditional slide is 7.5 kilowatts per cabinet. So when I talk about power density, there's a big difference between a traditional data center and an AI factory or blockchain facility. A traditional data center is about 7.5 kilowatts per cabinet. The cabinet's roughly 2 feet wide, about 6 feet tall, 3 feet deep. They can range anywhere from 3 to 40 kilowatts, but the average in the country is about 7.5. From a network perspective, it's very important for them to have high bandwidth and low latency. So you're going to see traditional data centers primarily in locations where there's lots of other data centers. So Northern Virginia is a location where you see a ton of traditional data centers around the country. Most of the world's internet goes through there. It's important for them to be close to other things from a network perspective. And it's very important that, they're able to stream videos very fast, so they have lots of bandwidth, they have lots of redundancy in the systems that they're doing. Their size can be anywhere from a few thousand square feet to maybe hundreds of thousands of square feet. It really just depends on what it is. There are traditional data centers all over the state. There's a few companies that host them here. It just depends on what they're doing and who they're hosting. From an employment perspective, they might employ 10 or 20 or 50 people, maybe it's hundreds of people. It just depends on the size of the facility and what exactly they're doing. And they're going to cost anywhere from the low millions to maybe tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. A blockchain facility is a little bit different. It's specialized. It's built specifically for blockchain. So unlike a traditional data center, you're looking at technology that is very capital intensive. It's very important for those facilities to be built in a way that is very efficient with its capital. You'll see these facilities, what we've built, but others have built in a lot of cases. They look kind of like Fergie barns. Turn it down. Okay, they kind of look like Fergie barns for what we built for that. They're here. 1 second. Keep going. All right, so they're going to be fully air-cooled. They're not going to have much technology in them other than the computers themselves. From a location standpoint, for those, it's just very important that they're located where there's power. They don't use a lot of internet. What you have at your house is fully adequate for what they've got. But they're basically, the idea is for them to be very, very efficient. So not a lot of expense going into them. Move that in. All right. And so you'll see, tens of employees there. The two facilities that we've got, some of them, or one of them in Jamestown employs about 40, and then in Ellendale, roughly about 40 as well. They're built on the capital side. They need tens of millions of dollars. In our case, we'll talk about that a little bit. In Jamestown, we spent $42 million building that facility, and down in Ellendale, about $8 million. On the AI factory side of things, they are very different in a couple of ways. So in one regard, they're very, very dense. So earlier I talked about density inside of cabinets. So the density inside of them will range anywhere from 50 kilowatts up to 200 kilowatts per cabinet. And we've seen as much as 800 kilowatts being demanded. So almost 100 times the density inside of the cabinet, inside of the same amount of space as compared to the traditional data center. They are primarily used for two purposes for AI. So one of them is for training. I'll talk about that some more later. The other is inference. So that's one of them is for training, is for taking large amounts of data in, understanding patterns and learning from it, versus inferences. Inference is your interaction with that kind of data set, that model that comes out of it. AI factories are primarily cooled with liquid. That can be different types of liquid. In our case, it's a closed loop liquid cooling system. We'll talk about that some more. Networking is very, very specialized. So inside of the data center itself, it has very, very high latency inside of the data center for the chips to be able to communicate with each other. Outside of the data center, it depends on the use of the data center and what exactly it needs to do. So if it's doing something medical, or if it's looking at farming, or it's looking at oil and gas, or it's looking at something where you might be able to accept a second or two of wait time to get the answer back, you might not be able to be close to high speed internet. You might be able to be out in a rural location, whereas if it's something where a self-driving car is driving down the road, now you need to be close to a population center, because that self-driving car can't wait for an answer. And so for us, we've been able to build in rural locations and find places where there's lots of power in order to build those facilities. On the size standpoint, certainly thousands of square feet, maybe up to 1 million or maybe low millions of square feet on the AI factory side of things. On the employment, for us, low hundreds of employees, there's a lot of square footage, there's a lot of mechanical systems that have a lot of requirements to run all the time. They have a lot of redundancy in everything that they're doing. And the facilities themselves on the capital side are tens of millions, hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars to build each facility. This slide kind of takes all three of those, puts them next to each other. So we range from a wide range of applications to very specialized applications, primarily air cooling or primarily liquid cooling or some mix. It can be very low density, very high density. It can be high bandwidth, low latency, or it can be very, very, much like your house where it's in a huge situation. Traditional markets, very rural locations, small thousands of square feet, maybe million square foot size components can range as well. The point here in going through all of this is just to say there's different types of data centers and there's different types of applications, and it can get complex. So I think it's important to kind of understand a bit about all of it. So I'll talk a bit about AI. So AI has, of course, become a lot more popular recently. If you think about what's really up on the forefront on the AI side of things, ChatGPT has become very, very popular very, very quickly. If you look at Google, for example, it took Google 11 years to go from 0 queries per day to 1 billion queries a day. ChatGPT did that in just 2.5 years. So the adoption has happened very, very quickly. ChatGPT is very, very widespread, has very, very widespread use. It works well for folks who want to organize data. I use it to help organize letters or my thoughts or kind of put together information. It's been very helpful. Certainly some college kids have cheated on papers with it, but there's all sorts of uses there. So that's a big popular one. Folks have heard a bit about self-driving cars. Maybe some of you have seen them driving around in the States and places that have them. Medical analysis is really interesting. There's been some really interesting outcomes where if you go get imagery done, you might have a doctor who looks at it, they can only understand and remember and look for patterns in a limited sort of way where the computer could look at tens or hundreds of millions of images and look for patterns and help find earlier outcomes for medical. And you can get diagnosed earlier. That's very positive. There's also farming. There's a lot going on with farming. There's some, especially around here in North Dakota, where you can take imagery and you can understand where should we seed more, where should we irrigate more or less, what should we do with the soil. There's all sorts of things going on there. It's all about improving yield. So that's nice. And then same on oil and gas. There's all sorts of help being done also all throughout the whole process. I talked earlier about training and inference. I'll dive in just a little bit more again. So training is taking in millions of records of data, analyzing them, trying to understand what's going on with that data, looking for patterns, and you get a model at the end of it. Versus inference is when you're interacting with that model. So if you have something that's trained, it gets data, it learns about it, you method imagery, farming, whatever. Inference is where you're getting some sort of output out of that. You're asking the question, it's telling you something back. So there's a lot of information going on about what's going on with data centers. So there's, we're going to talk about facts and fiction here. So the first one for us is water. There's a lot of folks who have read online that facilities like ours will just use a ton of water. Some folks use evaporative cooling, especially in hot climates. Some folks use one-through cooling where you take water in one side and you put it on another side. We don't do either of those. We use a closed-loop system, so we don't consume any water inside of our cooling process.
That's a lie.
Or the chips.
That's a lie.
Or you can just stay quiet and we can talk about it in questions. Okay? Thank you. So we don't use water in our cooling process. The water stays in the system. It's water-glycol mix. And it just goes around in circles. So it comes out of the building, and we'll talk about that, and comes back in the building. The next question that comes up often is about power. So we have to spend a lot of money on upgrading power infrastructure, but primarily we look for locations that have lots of power already, and that's what we look forward to doing with. We'll talk about that some more. Jobs. The facility here in Harwood, we expect 200 to 250 full-time on-site jobs and roughly 700 construction workers during the construction process. And then sound. Sound's a very important matter. Basically, there's things you can do with sound, so step backs, making sure you have distance, so on and so forth. We'll talk about that some more. So we'll start talking about cold climates versus hot climates. We've chosen to be in cold climates, North Dakota specifically, because it's much easier to cool very hot equipment instead of a cool climate than it is to cool in a hot climate. We just put out a white paper a few weeks ago. Per 100 megawatts of IT load, which is about $50 million per year in savings operationally, because of our not needing to evaporate water, not consume water, and not run the cooling equipment as often. There's 220 days per year, the equivalent of 220 days per year of free cooling in North Dakota, where we're not using resources to do cooling. Basically, the cold water system, what it does is it comes into the building cold. If it's cold enough, it just goes into the computers. It gets warmed up by the computers, and then it comes back out. So it comes into the computers, it gets warmed up, and then it comes out, it goes outside. There's radiators outside, they're called dry radiators. It's kind of like what we have on the car. So the liquid just goes through the radiators. If it's cold outside, it just goes through the radiators, it gets cooled off. If it's hot outside, there can be fans blowing air across it, and then it comes back inside. The system automatically detects the temperature of the water. If it's cold enough, it just goes back into the computer chips, it cools them off. If it's not cool enough, it gets diverted into a chiller, which uses electricity to cool the water down further. So there's sensors all along the way. It decides how many radiators does it go through. Are the fans spinning? Are the chillers running? It looks at everything that's going on and what's the flow, and it just goes around in circles, just like on your car. Every single one of you that drove here has a car with a radiator on it. This looks just like that. Our consumption in Ellendale. So in Ellendale, North Dakota, we have access to rural water, same like what we would have here. In the case of Ellendale, rural water was allowed to give us 10 gallons per minute for a maximum flow. Same size pipe that your houses would have. Our predicted consumption of water is 2/3 of one single-family home in North Dakota. What we're using water for at that site is bathrooms, kitchens, washing hands, washing equipment, stuff like that. We don't use any water for cooling. On the electrical infrastructure side, this is a 280 megawatt total project. We are required by the utilities to pay for any infrastructure upgrades. Our desire is to find locations where there's already pre-existing infrastructure that can support our type of load. We don't want to have to run miles and miles and miles of transmission lines. We don't want to spend all that money. We want to look for somewhere where there's already large amounts of capacity that's already available, and that's what we found here. This is why we're in this location, because there's already existing infrastructure that can support us. Any infrastructure upgrades that are required, whether that's transmission lines running to us, substation upgrades, you name it, we're required to pay for that up front. So we'll write checks for that. In the case of Ellendale, we've had some really good outcomes. In Ellendale, in 2023, for our operations there, MDUs, North Dakota ratepayers received $5.4 million in credits from our project. For 2024, they received $5.7 million from our project. That's a little bit of a unique situation because there's about 2 gigawatts worth of wind energy within 100 miles of that facility. And there's oftentimes where the windmills can't turn because they can't move the power out of the area. There's not enough transmission lines to move the power out. And because of that, we end up using energy that otherwise wouldn't be produced. And that's resulted in us paying a lot more money into the system, which means that ratepayers have received big credits for both our operational years down there. On the construction job side, we expect a little over 700 on-site construction jobs. There's several hundred off-site jobs in factories where they're prefabricating items. This is electrical workers. This is a huge piece of this. Mechanical workers is the next largest, but there's everything from iron workers, concrete workers, there's all sorts of construction going on at the site there. On the full-time job side, 200 to 250 total employees at this facility. This is electrical, mechanical, carpenters, plumbing, mechanical, facilities, maintenance, moving snow, you name it. It's a big concrete building. We have a lot to take care of on side of the campus. And so we've got 250 people there. And that's full-time, that's just our workers. Between us, our customer, security, that's what's on that site. There's also on top of that other contractors that will show up to take care of specific types of equipment. Sound I talked about briefly. There's a few things to do with sound. It's just like any project, you have to deal with sound. So distance is the first thing that we need to do. There's been some reporting on the acreage that we have out here at this site. A big part of the acreage is just to make sure we're far enough away from people that we're not, negatively impacting them and causing a lot of noise on their property. The next thing that we can do is we look for compatible uses. So if we have data centers in the middle, and then we've got, commercial or light industrial mixed use, kind of types of buildings spreading out from there, that can help segregate the sound so it's not traveling far away. We can also do blocking through walls, berms, trees, other types of work. And then also working with neighbors, just to understand, are we impacting them? How are we impacting them? If we are, what can we do to change that? We spend a lot of money planting trees, putting up walls, and doing other things to make sure that we're not negatively impacting our neighbors. A bunch of people wonder, why are we in North Dakota? I talked about it a bit, but first there's abundant energy. North Dakota is a net exporter of power. There's energy, whether that's electricity or fuel. It's a business-friendly environment. So the state, the county, the locals have been pretty easy to work with. It's a difficult planet. There's 220 days per year of free cooling days. So those are days where we don't have to spend any money in electricity running the chillers. We're able to just benefit from the cold air that's outside. There's a very high quality workforce here in North Dakota. We've been able to work with people who are on the electrical side, mechanical, plumbing, you name it. Basically, we have an entire city's worth of infrastructure inside of one of our facilities. And folks who might otherwise be traveling all around the state and do the work are able to just stay inside of their location, which means they can go home every night and see their families and not have to travel. On the economic development side of things, we spend a lot of time in the communities trying to get to know folks. When we first got to Ellendale, we wanted to understand what can we do inside of Ellendale with the infrastructure that's already there, what might not work, and where can we come together to create solutions. In Ellendale, one of the big challenges is housing. It's a town of 1,100 people, and they asked, they wanted us to bring workers into the area. They were hopeful that we would, bring an employee, move there, have them come with a spouse, and hopefully we'd be able to, have extra workers for their workforce, but there was nowhere for them to live. So we ended up helping to get some houses built down there. We help to get, we like to invest with others. We don't like it to be our project alone. We like to work with other folks inside of the communities. So in the case of Ellendale, there was a bowling alley that had some challenges. We were able to work with the owner of the bowling alley, with some other businesses in town to get that totally rehabilitated. We've been doing free family movie nights at the American Legion, free art for kids. We've been doing all sorts of programs together with the schools and so on and so forth. That is my phone. Ellendale is seeing, and Dickey County is seeing a huge impact on the sales tax side of things, also property taxes. So in Dickey County, the largest property taxpayer before us was paying about $600,000, $617,000 per year. Our first building there is about 4 times that. So it's a pretty big number by the time it's done. So there's a lot of impact on that side of things, so that helps everybody in the community. It means more money for roads, schools, police, fire, all the things that a city needs. So that's a very large impact. Plus, if you look at Ellendale, when we first got there, there was only one restaurant in town. Sadly, it went out of business. I thought we might have been in the restaurant business, but we fortunately were not. There's now 4 restaurants there. There's a lot of folks who are making money from what we're doing in Ellendale, and that we think is a great thing. We try to encourage entrepreneurs who are local to the area to work with us and help fulfill services, whether that service is just we need or it's services that the community needs. We're asking people to move specifically to Ellendale for that project, and we want people to have a very great quality of life and be able to stay there and retain those workers who work for us for a long time. So you have to get involved in all sorts of things, whether that's child care, what's going on in schools, etc. So we try to get very involved. Real quickly on the housing, you can see some photos of the houses, the community. These are a little early here, some of the houses over there. Here's some photos of us in the community. We do parades. You can see some art events that we've done. We bought a bunch of turkeys from a local vendor down in Allendale and donated those, or gave those as gifts to our construction workers as a thank you for their putting in the arm hours. But that's kind of a win-win all over the place. We've done running with things. We've done all sorts of different types of events. We try to find ways we can get involved. That's the presentation I have there. I'm sure there's questions and things people would like to talk about. I would like to point out a few things real quick, a few people real quick. In the back there, we have Martin. Martin, can you say hi? Say hi.
Yes.
Just say hello.
Yeah, hey. Sorry.
We've got Martin over here. We've got Janelle back here. These two are with Applied Digital. Lance is here somewhere.
He's out getting water.
Lance is getting water. All right. We've got a few other folks here. We've got Dakota over here. We've got Cass County Electric here. We've got some folks from Economic Development. There's all sorts of folks here. I'm sure there's lots of questions. Happy to take questions. We're going to have to do it in an orderly manner. If you'd like to ask a question, I think we can line up in the center over here would be the best way to do that. I'll call on you as long as, if you ask a question, I'll try to repeat it just in case people don't hear it. And then hopefully I'll remember to do that. And then we'll go from there.
Let's get her mic.
Give us 1 second.
There you go.
Check. Yep. Awesome.
Hi, my name is Jarrell Grover, and I grew up here. I bought my parents' house. I live here currently. My house faces this proposed project. 2 questions, kind of. One, I keep hearing you use the word proposed, and then, yes, we're doing this. Is this a done deal? Because I know there's nothing for us to vote upon or to agree upon because it's in between that weird city zoning land. Just pretty smart for you guys. But is it done? And then my secondary question, because I have a lot of questions, you guys mentioned that there's people around. Is there a forum where we can ask questions and we get answers from it? Like, I know you have email sign up, but is that something we want to talk about?
Let me answer. Let's start with the first question. Otherwise, I'll mix them up. So the first question is it a done deal or is it not a done deal? So we have 2 potential locations for the facility. Both of them are nearby Harwood. One of them is to the south here. One of them is to the west. We're still working through that. We'll have that all sorted out here in the next few weeks. Our intention, though, either way, is to break ground on one of them in the month of September. The second question was outreach. You can email us, community@applieddigital.com. It's a great way to get a hold of us. That goes to me, Martin, and a few of the other team members. Happy to chat with you. Through that, we'll also do more of these types of events. We've done probably 30-ish town hall meetings. We've never had this many people come to any of them. So we'd be happy to chat with you some more, and we'll do some more events, but you can email us, community@applieddigital.com.
Is it a done deal or not? Criminals.
Are we?
Guys, if you can't, hold on 1 second. If you guys can't get in the line and ask a question nicely, we're gonna ask you to leave. Ed? Who said that? Thank you.
So you have options between 2 sites, and one will definitely happen, or
One will definitely.
or 2 happen.
One will.
Well, we're all here to learn something. If you not explain your question at a time like everybody else, great. Otherwise, you're disruptive to everybody in here. I was perfectly in my 38-year Harwood resident, and I think what you guys are doing is great. I don't have a problem with that. I understand the closed loop water thing and everything. My concern is more about power usage and what it's going to do for the city people to what it costs to live in Harwood. I don't want Harwood to turn into another Horace where you're growing like crazy, all of a sudden you can't afford to live there. Pointed more at the Dakota and Cass County electric people. We all got a letter on Friday saying our off-peak is going up by what, 14% or something like that, right? I'm concerned, and in the wintertime, I average probably 200 hours plus of load control, where they've got to shut my heat off and I go on backup because there's not enough power. Now all of a sudden we got all kinds of power to power this thing. And I'd like an explanation from Cass County Electric and Oregon Dakota Power about how this is going to affect rate structures, the dividends that get paid, and power availability. And we need it most in hot summer months and when we're trying to keep our holes in there. Thank you very much.
First of all, thanks for the questions. Thanks for coming out and willing to listen to us here. I'll just remind everybody, this is a Black Vigils project. Our role in this project is to serve them power. We are Cass County Electric, we're the distribution provider that serves this area. The question about the rates and the cost of living, I'll address that one first. We are not raising rates as a result of serving this property, serving this large value. We have the resources, the energy capacity to serve them. The letter that went out, you're correct, we are raising our off-peak rates by 14%. That is as a result of a wholesale power rate increase that we received that took effect April 1st of 2025. So our wholesale power provider is Dakota Power. And when their rates go up mainly from inflationary pressures, the cost of poles, the cost of wires, the cost of labor, the cost of transformers, everybody has dealt with those inflationary pressures over the past 4 to 5 years. We are no different. So when we get those rate increases, we are passing those along. We've done a great job of trying to absorb as many of those rate increases that we can to try to pass along the least amount of rate increases and keep our rates stable. The last time we had a rate increase was 2017. And we're able to do that. We're able to maintain our rates and keep them stable as we can with the growth that we have. So in many cases, when we serve large consumers, large energy consumers, we're able to leverage that and use some of those profits to buy down, I'll say, to help pay for some of the fixed costs and reduce the overall upward pressure that we already have on rates. So it's a fair and legitimate question. The timing of it, yeah, it wasn't great when we say we're not raising rates and get that letter. I'm a Cass County Electric member. My off-peak rates are doing the same thing. Completely a separate deal. So I'm not going to stand in front of you guys today and tell you that our rates are never going to go up. We will do everything in our power that we can do, managing expenses, controlling our budgets. We do that now to maintain our rates. When we get wholesale rate increases, we pass those along to you guys. That is a completely separate deal. It's not a lack of not having power, not lack of reliability. That's a completely separate issue between reliability and rates. So we have the resources to serve this load. And we've done our new process through engineering with the Dakota team, the Cass County Electric team, and we're able to secure that without affecting what I call our traditional or legacy plans. Does that answer your question, sir?
Can Dakota address the lack of power and having to buy off the grid so we get ripple versus all of a sudden not plenty of power?
Yeah, I can address that. So the off-peak program is a voluntary program. And what the off-peak means is it's what we call demand response. So during times, there's at times where if we had to have generation resources to build to cover our peaks, so we have peaks in the winter, we have peaks in the summer. So if we had to build resources to cover all that peaks, then we have a bunch of time where we don't need it, so we're overbuying, we have overbuilt. So with our demand response system, we're able to control those with that electric heat, including boilers, water heaters, electric furnaces, drain wells, irrigation wells, commercial accounts that load their generators. So when price goes here, resources are here, in the wintertime, our loads are up here. So instead of going on the market and buying expensive power to cover that, we're controlling that load. And that way we're saving money from, we're saving the demand, and then we pass that savings on to you. So your off-peak rate is at a discounted rate. In return, you let us control that once in a while, so we can avoid those high demand times. So we don't need to overbuild our system, we can utilize the demand response system to cover those peaks. And in return, we're giving you a breakout, when the demand cost and everything goes up, that's what we have to raise. We have to raise rates to keep up with some of that.
I understand that.
Right.
You get all the system.
Yep. Yep.
What I don't understand is where the extra power is coming from to apply that we currently don't have during those peak times now when you have to shut.
Yeah, we've secured a separate deal, a separate arrangement for the power supply and delivery of the pipe. So we're not short on power per se to feed you. It's just, it's a fluctuating price and fluctuating markets. But when we have to do our demand response, that's just it's a market signal.
Motion to expect any changes.
That will not affect our demand response time, our demand response system at all. We will not see more control as a result. You will see less control as a result. It's a completely separate situation from our demand system. So
That's what I mean.
yeah, so they're a little different. That's a end user is out there, investor owned. That's a little bit different system. We have, as a member owned cooperative, we have capital credit. So this year alone, so we operate a little different. We are a not-for-profit organization, not to be confused with a nonprofit. So we need money, we need revenue to pay our bills, pay up our employees, to buy bucket trucks, to have maintenance. Any excess revenue is what we call margins. At the end of the year, our board, our member, 9-member board of directors that are elected members by the members, looks at that excess revenue called margins and allocates a portion of it back to our members in the form of capital credits. So in 2025 alone, we gave our members back $2.75 million.
I don't want to take up everybody's
All
time.
Mathis.
We expect more.
More capital credits? Yeah, I mean, so when we add goals like this and we continue to grow, the cooperative continues to do well, we have more margins. We have more margins and we can decide to give more margins back to our members. Yes, great questions.
Hi there, my name is Summer Tarnowski. I'm a student at NDSU. You talked a lot about free cooling this year because it's typical climate. That doesn't exist. There's always going to be an energy imbalance. You're creating much energy and then it's just going out into the atmosphere and worsening climate. So I'm wondering what you guys are doing that could possibly be offsetting the amount of energy and heat that you're sending to the atmosphere.
So basically, you have comparative, right? We decide to build in a cold climate like this, where you're right, it's not entirely free cooling. There's pumps that are moving the fluid around. The free part is the cooling that's happening with the fluid as it's going through the radiator system outside. We're not having to use mechanical systems to cool any of that, right?
I understand that, but the energy is still going somewhere, in this case into the soil, which increases the Earth's albedo, it increases snow melt. None of that is, it's not going away, you're not like shipping it to space. It's still going.
It goes into the ambient areas.
Yes.
But if it's minus 30 out, it's going to the ambient area, correct?
We have 4 days max.
Okay, there's 220 days, equivalent hours of days throughout the year that we don't have to use mechanical cooling. That's what that's talking about. Okay.
Hi, I am a student in education at MCM. I have a couple of quick questions. First off, is there a current class action lawsuit against you guys for receiving security closely as the campus?
I don't know.
There is. And also, is there air pollution coming from your thing, or is that also controlled with the pumps?
We don't output any pollution.
You don't put out any pollution. But what did you just say about the energy going on to the air and everything else? I think that there was states of you completely exaggerating the benefits of a private gym. And not only that, but I believe that it's true that this is owned by an investment bank. So I think there's a lot.
We're actually publicly traded with this one.
So, yeah, but do you know why? Do you know what happened? I think that the way that you have handled this presentation by yelling at people's concerns and having the text so small that people in the back can't see it, tells me that you don't care about the people here. If you're building it next to an elementary school, a mile away, you would care for them now and you care for them after. It seems like you don't care for them after. I'm sorry that I've stomached you, I guess. I just don't understand because it seems like you actually aren't running our pool and you're selling it to us predetermined our fate. People here, they're farmers. The pollution is going to affect everything, everybody. And it doesn't just stop at Harwood. It's going to affect Harwood, it's going to affect Moorhead. All of North Dakota, do you want to be? I don't know, man. I just feel like you're going to start proposing your shit. You better do it right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay, mine is going to sound like small peanuts now.
Can you state your name? I think they want
Yeah,
that.
my name is Darcy Smith, and I'm from Harwood here. My question was, so a few months ago, there was a town hall, walking in, walking on tables, and finding pizza. M-I-S-O, myself?
Myself.
Yeah. And I understand, how are they, is that project that they were proposing, and maybe you don't know, but was that connected to going forward with this project?
I'm unaware of,
They had trouble hitting their numbers that they put out, the states weren't agreeing with the numbers they were putting out, how they were calculating.
We can't hear back here.
So the question was about MISO and if the roundtable that happened a few months ago is related to this project. So I'm not actually sure what that roundtable with MISO was. I don't know if you guys would know. Paul, I don't know where you are.
I think it's that list.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that question. MISO is a multi-state regional transmission organization, so they're moving data around. They work on the transmission system across, I think, 11 different states. Or was it here? It was here in town?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
They didn't have it throughout it. Well, we don't have it in the
No. I'm not aware of it, sorry.
Still working? All right. Preston Steele, Harwood resident. You guys are doing a presentation here. I haven't seen it. Where would it be at? And are you guys seeing tax credit?
So two questions. The first question was, do we have any EPA certifications? Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm looking for your full EPA environmental survey that's required for all major construction. And also you can include like your traffic control plan, your light and sound pollution control.
yeah, so for EPA, the interaction that we end up having with them mostly has to do with our packet generation, and that's not there yet. But we have to go through all the permitting process, and that happens over time. So not everything's completed on that yet. What was the second question?
Just to continue on with that as well, like your stormwater, like the watershed district, you guys.
That'll be filed before we do anything, and you'll be able to see it in the public records.
Okay. And then my next question was, are you receiving any tax credits?
We don't have any tax credits or anything for what we're doing here. In Ellendale, we didn't apply for any TIF districts or anything like that with our project. The housing that's there did work through a TIF to do some of the local infrastructure, the paving of the streets, things like that. But we didn't do anything on the tax credit side. Actually, we asked to be annexed by the city of Ellendale. That caused us to pay more taxes. The reason why we asked to be annexed was because we were asking people to live in Ellendale. In that case, the city asked us, please help people move here. The town is 1,100 people, used to be about 2,000 or so. they really wanted people to move into the area because they've lost some population over time, just as farm technology has changed, people, gone off to college and not come back. So we asked to be annexed into the city, and the reason for that is because we're asking people to move there, and we want to make sure that all the services that they need, police, fire, roads, safety, schools, etc., are able to perform with a larger population. And by us being annexed into the city has more funds. So in that case, we actually ask the police tax us more, which is a little strange, but that's what we asked them.
Thank you very much. Will that EPA survey will it be publicly available?
Stormwater protection plan is
Yeah.
given North Dakota.
Thank you very much.
Hi there, my name is Lucas Vaughn. I'm a resident of Fargo, North Fargo specifically. I've lived here my whole life. So community is very important to me. So we talk about investing in a $3 billion project in a company like that. That's pretty important. But do you know what your profits for your company last year were?
I suppose you probably looked at our statements. We didn't have profits last year.
It was negative $230 million. As a matter of fact, it's been that way the last 5 years. Your stock market has gone up, however, but it's projected to go down 11.9%. So if you're trying to sell this to the community, this seems like a bad investment in a company that's not producing any revenue, but continue to expand. As a matter of fact, on your own site, it says you have 205 full-time employees, but you're saying you're going to double the workforce without producing any profits in the last 5 years. Why should we believe you and let you invest in our community and then put us with a $3 billion paperweight that we have to clean up when you go on that?
Sure, we can talk about that. So we've committed to $5 billion in Allendale, and we've committed $3 billion to spend here. We just signed an $11 billion, three leases combined together is $11 billion for Allendale. So basically, you have to build these facilities. We're a yield on cost model is our business. So we build facilities, and you have a rate of return on those facilities for years and years and years afterwards. Wait 1 second. And so we have to build them first. So while we're building them, it's very capital intensive. We having 200 employees total. We have another 300 to 350 coming to Allendale, and we've got 200 coming here. And so we're not just doubling in employee count. It's a lot larger than that. And the reason why it can be larger than that is because we've now signed leases. So you have to spend a bunch of money, and it takes a long time to build these facilities. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to lease you a data center and you have nothing, and then you just start collecting revenue on day zero, right? You actually have to build the thing, and you actually have to have workers. So the reason why there hasn't been profits generated is because we've been taking those profits and reinvesting them and continuing to expand our capital, our footprint.
So it's speculative. Your projections of income are speculative in the future. But when we look at things like the MIT report that's come out and how Google and Meta will cut their AI departments within that, and then we look on top of that, we see that the AI market and data center market is growing at such a rate that it's now being compared to .com levels. As a matter of fact, investment in data centers is now outpacing consumer spending like shopping. So just funding and building these things is now becoming a big part of the economy, but they're not producing any wealth. There's no income generated by 95% of these venture capital investments in AI and these data centers. So why should we believe you when there hasn't been any profits generated by these sorts of venture capital entrepreneurs, and you don't have any profits to put forward, but you're promising that there will be?
I just answered the question. We just signed leases at the first of
You're saying, wait,
Sir, first off, we're publicly traded. We don't get to just say, hey, we just signed a lease and just make it up, right? We just signed leases, and we've just started to get those going. And so,
started in 2001.
Hold on. We started in 2021. And as a company, we started in 2021.
How was the website says?
We started in 2021. There was an entity that didn't do much, but we started as a business in 2021. I was the 5th person at the company. My first day working with everybody was here in North Dakota. The first time I met folks, we visited different communities here in North Dakota to try to find locations. And just like back then, We had to find a location, we had to build the location, and then you lease the location. You can't collect lease income off of the field.
You can't collect it when there are profits, these profits that speculative uses. That's a little irrelevant, because they're tax-based companies, so your profits start coming in. Will this money funnel out of the state and out of resident pockets? Texas, or will they stay here?
We have more work to do before we go to Texas.
Right, but the company is where?
Our headquarters with 50 people are in Texas.
Texas-based company. I think these people know a good investment and a bad investment, because I've met a lot of these people. I know you guys are good at investing in your money, and I would just encourage that you invest in a company that's not produced any profits in the last 5 years. Probably is not going to yield any more in the next 5 years. It's either double or triple every successive year.
I don't know how you can predict stock and what that's going to be.
You mentioned the water usage rate, two-thirds the average.
In the element budget.
So over 280 megawatts, can you get that equivalent number of average for the household?
Yeah, so each single building is about 2/3 of one household. So in Ellendale, we'll have 3 AI factory buildings down there. So that's 2/3 worth of consumption. We're expecting it to be the same here in Harwood. It'll again be rural water, and the rural water district won't be able to get as much capacity.
How many tens of thousands of equivalent North Dakota households in electricity consumption is 280,000 megawatts?
280 megawatts. Yeah. Yeah, so for kind of comparative, for comparison, if you look at Bismarck, Mandan, refinery over there, it's about 100 megawatts on average load. So it's about 2.8 times that size.
So the numbers, that's getting the power plant produces, will that be in households?
I don't know offhand the number of households.
Is that on the order of production that we are seeing? Is that on the order of consumption of household? Or just trying to get a rough estimate, because I think most people, 280 megawatts is not really a number that makes sense.
280 megawatts would be about 2.8 times Bismarck. I don't know what it's required specifically. I don't know if you guys have a total capacity for your system. Just a rough number.
Yeah. Is there investment in, you mentioned that you're primarily not, from a past electric standpoint, not necessarily in the electric production business. Is it new ramping up, or are there investments in production of energy other than in that, or is something trying to push in terms of the rural past money that wasn't well received? Are there sustainable investments in generation?
Yes, we're not part of the energy system, we're part of the nuclear power system. Your question is, do we have enough power to serve this? Are we building power resources? We are not building new resources to cover this load.
Is there any use almost past those?
Yeah, we're so hard by our Minnesota power. So Minnesota Power Cooperative, currently we're in a transition period. Our legacy assets are 50+ years old. So you don't just build a power plant. That doesn't take 1 year, 2 years, sometimes that's a 10-year project. So we are looking at replacement resources right now. Over the next 10 years, we'll have to replace some of the assets that we have now. You're not building new assets currently, but power is fast.
Would somebody taking on the power load for Bismarck?
It's about what we are right now. That's not like this system. It's roughly about what we have right now.
So are we going to take on all the other equipment in relation to
Power is included in that what I'm talking about that we serve.
future for any thing? What percentage increase to gas electric?
Yeah, this is, so we're a 270 megawatt plant. This is 280 megawatts. Roughly the energy, we're all built in our system. Yeah,
Is there baseload supply?
yes. You have a base load supply of energy is by Superior.
Hi there. My name is Joseph Cecil. I'm one of the landowners to the east that would not sell my property to a private field. I guess they would not sign their NDA. I guess my question to you guys is, both in bigger circumstances, obviously you guys have two site plans, but you have yet to announce what those are. However, there is a Harwood planning and zoning meeting September 2nd to rezone that ag to light industrial, which you have not talked about, because we're hoping the public doesn't show up at that meeting as well. So, that's the question I have for you guys, why is everything so secretive? Why are you guys under NDA? Why are the city commissioners under NDA? Nobody can talk about this project.
So why do we do NDAs? So we're publicly traded, and there's challenges for us as a publicly traded company that if we disclose things, like let's say we came and talked to you, and then you went and bought stock or sold stock or tipped people off, that could cause you to have problems with the SEC. That could be a problem for us as well. So we just need to make sure that when we're having these conversations before it's public, that's why we have to do a press release. So we do a press release so we can tell everybody about it. And up until that point, it's material non-public information, so it's not something that can be out there, because if you went and traded on it, it would cause legal challenges.
That makes sense, and I get that. When you guys did a press release, which we found out in Texas, it was not up here in Fargo until we finally sent it over to Fargo for.
So yes, we released that on Monday everywhere at the same time.
Sure. So I guess this facility is interesting, 925 acres, which is 3 times the size of Elmendale. And we're putting it in Harwood, and Fargo will be involved if you guys are going east, to some extent. For Harwood, I have a question for the commissioners is, how does Harwood have the resources to take on a project like this? Do you guys have a building inspector? Do you guys have a traffic and engineering team? Do you guys somebody that's going to take on a $3 million project? Does the Harwood Fire Department have the fire trucks necessary to run a fire at a place like this? Do they have the training? So we're taking all these things in, and nobody's talking about this. You guys are going to get your zoning approval on September 2nd, next week, 7 days. You don't even know where this is going to be at. We don't have building plans, setbacks, there's been no noise studies, nothing. Now, if you guys are providing them, have you done any independent noise studies for the community to see how far this is actually going to get for us? So,
Can you get to the question again, please?
So how does the Harwood City Commission plan on taking on these resource needs? Is Applied Digital paying for all of them?
Yes, that's the expectation. I mean, that's the expectation. That's how permits work. We apply for permits. People who are applying for the permits pay for the permits. It's really costs.
Hello, my name is Jerry Barnum. I spent 37 years in the building here with the families, Harwood, who moved here because it's a small town and everybody knows each other. There's contact with the children, we know who they are. And yet we're going to bring in 200, 250 people to this area. And I was asked to come here because the parents called me and said they were concerned about the safety of their children, concerned about Harwood. We moved out here, folks, because it's a small town. And, you know, when it expands, questions about what's coming. And, you know, this is a beautiful little school. And how long is it going to be? I mean, is it beautiful?
Make sure we understand who these folks are. Down in Ellendale, over half of the folks that we've hired so far are from within 75 miles of that location, so they're North Dakotans who live nearby. And so there are some people who come from other places, mostly it's going to be polar climates up north here. Oaks or Jamestown or other places to that location. It's not like we're, it's just totally different people from a totally different location. Jamestown or other places to that location. It's not like we're, it's just totally different people from a totally different location. They're North Dakotans. They're people who are doing electrical jobs, but because of their skill set and the type of work that they do, they travel all over the state. Our master electrician, for example, in Jamestown, North Dakota, worked for a pipeline company, and he was traveling all over the state as small children, and he wasn't seeing them at night because he's traveling all over the place to do his work. And instead, he now lives, and he lives 2-3 miles away from his work site. He's able to be home every day. And so I suspect that there will be people either from right here or right nearby here who will continue to live where they're living now, and they'll commute. We're not that far here from, Fargo or from Riley's Acres or from other locations. And so that's kind of what I suspect. And I think that folks who would like to live in a quieter, town would want to live here. But frankly, it's not like there's a bunch of houses that are being built and for sale here or somewhere for them to come live. They're going to have to live, drive over it, I think.
So you don't have a housing development plan?
No, what we like to do is we like to come to the community. This is the first of probably many meetings that I suspect that we'll have. And we like to try to understand what does the community have, what do we have, where does that kind of cross? And so for Ellendale specifically, when we went there, they said, we really would like to see new people move here. We've lost folks. We have grandkids, we have kids, we have folks who go off to college, they're not coming home. We've had a bunch of people call us. I know several folks from around the area who have called and said, hey, I'll give you a specific one. I've got a son-in-law and daughter with the grandbabies that live in Fargo. In their case, they lived up in Fargo. We've been trying to get them to come home for a long time. Do you have a job for this guy? And the answer was yes. So they were able to move back into their community. And we've had many cases where there's folks like that who have been able to come back into the community because they left. They went off to college. They didn't come back. And so in that case, in Ellendale, the community said to us, we would like to see people move here. How can we make that happen? We're hoping that you hire somebody, they come with a spouse or a child or somebody along with them, a significant other, that will come work at the other jobs that we have, come be a teacher, come be a principal of a school, come do something else in the community. That's what they asked for, and we worked with them. It wasn't already to show up and say, we're going to build houses. Frankly, it's kind of a pain to build a bunch of houses and work through all those challenges. Our business is the data center, right? But they said to us, please bring people here. Population's been shrinking. We'd like it to stop shrinking. So we'll have to see what it is. And communication and having conversations, where we're able to get to know each other and understand what it is. That's how we figure these things out. But to answer your question directly, we do not have a housing development plan here, and that's not our business. And I'll add just a little bit more. Those kids who are going to these schools, hopefully they're able to continue to live in the community for a long time because they've got a high quality job working at our facility or some other great employer that's nearby. That's a huge benefit.
Okay, my name is Darlene Meyer, and I live here in Harwood. I had a question on the water, if I could please. Probably a simple one. You mentioned rural water, and I'm wondering, what is your water source? Is it from Fargo rural water, or looking at the Harwood water system? That's my first question.
Let me do that one first, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so our expectation is it would be Task County rural water.
Simple, that was a simple question. But you mentioned, I just want to make sure that you were relying on rural water. My second question, It seems that the Fargo plant is going to be much bigger than Ellendale and Jamestown. Is that correct? Much larger? Or-
No, actually, yeah, so Jamestown is the smallest of all of them. It's the first facility that we built. Down in Ellendale, we have 3 AI factory buildings plus the blockchain building that's there. The 3 AI factory buildings that are there are actually larger than the 2 that are planned here. So 2 of the 3 that are in Ellendale are the same size as the 2 that are here. So Ellendale's a bit bigger.
Ellendale is bigger than the
Yeah.
Fargo one? That answers my other question, because you were saying like the water use in Ellendale is like 52,000 gallons a year. And I was thinking if Fargo is much bigger than that, it would double or triple, but.
So those numbers that I had up there, those were per building. So one building is about, down there, it's about 2/3 of one home. So being that there's 2 buildings, it would be 2/3 of one home twice. We have to work with the rural water system to understand what can they do. Just like with electrical that we talked about before. We can't just make up, new capacity for water. There's what there is, but really for us, the water is kitchens, bathrooms, washing hands, washing equipment. It's just basic necessities. It's not the high volume consumption that some folks think we're going to consume water while food.
And kind of with the water question, again, just what your plans would be, because we do have droughts where water gets scarce. So how would you deal with that if we had a tremendously drought season and we didn't have that water supply for you?
I mean, if the houses are also not using the bathrooms or washing their hands, we would also not be using the bathrooms or washing our hands. I mean, we'd be in the same boat.
It's that comparable to a regular household?
Yes.
Because we would have restrictions, but that's kind of a.
If you get restrictions,
what, yeah.
we're going to get restrictions too.
Then my last comment is, I was wondering, no matter what project you do, there's always pros and cons to every single thing you do. I've heard a lot of pros, the electrical and the water and the, and employment. It seems like, I've heard an awful lot of pros for that, but I was wondering what are cons? There must be something that is a con to the project that will affect our neighborhood and our community. And I was wondering, like, we have the soccer fields out there, we have the ball diamonds out there, and I know you're gonna have blockers, for the noise and that type of thing, but I'm just kind of wondering, what would be the cons to our community? Are we going to have traffic, are we going to have congestion, people at the ball diamond, are they going to be hearing the noise from the plant? That was my other question, maybe, what are some cons that we can anticipate in our community?
So any large project's going to have, especially during construction, there can be some traffic, there can be some noise, right? People are working with machinery. There's going to be noise and traffic. The good news about the jobs, 200 jobs is a lot of jobs, but it's not a tremendous amount of jobs. We're not talking about, 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 people coming to a job site every day. That 200 to 250 people, that's spread out over a 24-hour stay, 7 days a week time period, right? So it's not 200, from a 9 to 5 shift. There's just a big wave of traffic coming in. There's multiple shifts, and so they kind of break up over time. So compared to the traffic that's on this acreage, assuming it's here to East, to now, well, now there's effectively no traffic. There's some farm machines that are out there, but it's more. I think, maybe I'm biased, and some people here obviously think I'm biased. I think that the positives far outweigh the negatives, right? When you talk about property taxes, when you talk about jobs that are available, and you talk about all these other things, I think they outweigh the negatives. But frankly, that's for everybody here to judge. And that's for us to develop a relationship where you can come to us and say, hey, Nick, we don't like the way that it looks. We don't like that the guys or gals or whatever are driving on this road. We want to talk about how to reroute people in a different way. Or we don't want, more kids in these classrooms, or we need to find more teachers or whatever. That's us becoming part of the community and working with you guys to understand how do we integrate, how do we do things together. And are there going to be problems? Yes, there's going to be problems. Are we going to deal with them? Yes. We're going to work together with the community, with our folks to deal with the issues. just part of how it goes. I mean, if you have 700 people out there, somebody might do something that folks won't like. But what you're gonna have in us is you're gonna be able to call us, email us, come see us, work with us. You'll start seeing us show up in all sorts of places. And you can say, hey, this isn't working, we don't like this, but this other thing is working, that's okay. And then we just have to figure it out. It is a huge benefit to being in a small community because we get to build those relationships, right? And that's a big piece of it. And so that takes time. This is the first time I've met pretty much everybody in this room. Don't ask me for names later because I'm not going to remember a ton of names after one event, but this is how it works. Yes, it's short-lived. You know, folks are wondering, hey, how have we been planning this for years? No, we have plans for our buildings, and we try to write for them to different communities, and we have to get out there and get to know folks and figure it out. So we may run into some challenges, but we'll work with
My name is Tyler Frame. I'm a resident of Fargo, and just two quick things. One, I just want clarification on something because yeah, absolutely. Just a little clarification on something because I might have misunderstood. But I was just listening to like your interview you did with Valiant Live the other day, and then with Joel Heigham. And I thought at one point you said that you do need to, or that some sort of infrastructure needs to be built in order for the energy to be supplied to you guys, and that you were going to cover the costs.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah.
so what exactly needs to happen?
Yeah, so that would be any transmission lines or substation upgrades, anything like that that would have to happen. And we didn't talk about energy supply a whole ton, but we take voltage at a higher voltage level than your house would take. So any of those types of improvements, any connections, anything to do with that, we have to pay for it.
And then my second one is just, can you elaborate a little bit on the closed loop cooling system that you plan to have? I'm just curious, like, how often might that solution in there need to be changed? Where is it going to be disposed of once it is changed? And how much energy does it require to use that compared to other options?
Yeah. So there's a few things to go through on that. So the fluid itself is a water glycol mix. So it comes from a factory. It doesn't come out of the water. It doesn't come out of the system. It's a water glycol mix. There's not really a life expectancy of the fluid. What ends up happening is you do chemical analysis on it and you go, oh, maybe it's too much glycol, so you top off a little water, or it's too much alcohol, or the other way around, right? So you kind of balance it out. So it's not that the fluid just goes around for 5 years and then you've got to dispose of it. It's in there for a long time. I feel like there's a little bit more of that question.
How much energy, how much more energy?
Yeah, okay, yeah. So the, I'm going to use the Allendale building because the numbers are simpler for me. So the Allendale first building down there is 100 megawatts of heat. Okay? So on the hottest hour of the hottest day, so it's very, very hottest part of the hottest day, that building's using 132 megawatts of total power. So what that means is that's every single pump that's running, that's the chillers running at full bore, right? They're going, as hard as they can. So that's what it's using. So 100 megawatts of computers, 132 megawatts of total power. Coldest hour of the coldest day is about 105 megawatts. So there's about 5 megawatts of other stuff. So that's going to be cooling, that's going to be the building, just everything that's going on inside of there. When you average it out, it's about 117 across the entire year. And does that kind of help? So you kind of have that range of 5 to 32 minutes for the cooling and the other stuff.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm a student at NDSU. I grew up in a really small town and my grandpa was a farmer. A lot of the same sentiments that the gentleman a little bit before me had. But I am just a criminal justice student and I'm studying human development as well, so I'm not even going to speak on the abysmal environments of the guys that we really have. Are you aware of the patterns of crime rate increasing with large amounts of people moving to the city because of the gospel, and how will Pride Digital kind of support the Harwood community when that happens?
Yeah, so I can only speak to the communities that we've been in. I can't speak to every community on the planet. Ellendale is the smallest community that we've built it in so far. It's 1,100 people. There has not been an increase in crime in Ellendale. The state's attorney was on Facebook the other day talking about it. You can ask her if you like. I'm sure you can figure that out. But there has not been a change in crime there. One time we had a town hall. We do a lot of these town halls. We like to interact with folks and have a lot of conversations. And one time the emergency services manager, got up at one of them, and I only met him just briefly. He stands up and he says, "What do you do to your people? Like, what is that?" Because they're the nicest, most well-behaved people. They're not getting in fights. They're not harassing folks in town. They're just wonderful. And there's a guy back there somewhere. I saw him earlier. I don't know where he went, but one of our construction guys who I credit for a lot of that because we're not seeing those problems. Have those problems existed when there's a big influx of people in the state? We've seen it. We've seen it here in North Dakota. We haven't experienced it. These are highly trained, high-skilled workers. Again, they're North Dakotans, a lot of them. They're also from other states. But we have a very large amount of very skilled workers right here in North Dakota. And I think they do a very good job at making sure that they're coming to work, they're doing their job, and they're going home. And they're not causing these problems. We haven't seen that.
And then, you see, like, you want to see a lot of children. There's a school right over here. I don't know if you know this, but there are links to behavioral problems and attention deficit disorders. The environment's a good past that data centers have. And I just want to know how you can stand here and tell people that you want to take care of the children. When the children are going to so many of the and then find a data center. And you expect us to believe you when you have a class action lawsuit for lying to the
I'm not aware of, I don't know what class action lawsuit that I've filed. If you would like to talk to me after this and provide any information, thank you. So, I'm not aware of any class action lawsuits against us or me about us lying. Would be happy to chat about it if you want to talk to me afterwards, but feel free. Yeah, so we measured them at the mid-40 decibel range at about a half mile with no intervention, so then we can actually, what's that?
Which kind of did that?
That was a blockchain facility, which is actually more noisy than.
So what happens is,
I encourage you to go down to Ellendale and go to that distance and let me know if you hear that noise.
well, we are well, so here's probably here for we went to
I highly recommend visiting Ellendale. I'd be happy to go sit in the vehicle with you and do that.
I'm just asking, if it were to have some decibels, are we going to be willing to put ordinances against them so that they get fined, so that there's no problems with this noise, that we're not, like, holding on to your, you get a little wind and everything.
I mean, you get a little wind and you can hear your neighbor's dog 5 miles away from you.
I can, yes, but it's constant, and there's no escape noise from the back. He says if I was to sit up there, well,
Have you been to Ellendale? Have you been to Ellendale or any of these places? Okay, I encourage you to go. But I encourage you to go to Ellendale and visit and see for yourself. It's not that. Ask and answer. Ask and answer. Thank you. I've answered. If it doesn't exist, you can go visit. It's not in constant knowledge. Some data center developers have chosen, even in this state, to build a facility hundreds of feet, a couple hundred feet, 300 feet away from the facility. That is offensive. I wouldn't do that. What's that? Half mile, but yes.
Everything around.
lead thing. I get that, but I'm trying to get something there, but that's what I can't hear.
So in Allendale, we're spending millions of dollars on improving roads at our cost, to make sure that we're not negative. If it's specifically for us, if it's for us, sure. But it's in Allendale, we have a road that's coming right in front of our property, it's gravel, it's been a gravel road. You've been offering for a long time now to pay to turn it into a paved road. We've had some challenges with it, but it's getting paved this coming spring. And so that's, we're paying. I mean, makes sense. We expect that if we do cause damage, that we'll end up having to submit we will work with the county. If we've got damage to the roads, we would expect that we would cover those costs. I don't know.
That's why I'm asking, because it has there's semis that are overloaded, one from the conversion, and they're well made for a small bridge.
Yeah, so the road that we're paving is a gravel road presently. The arrangement that we made with the county is that we'll do the construction work up front. And then after the construction trucks leave, then we would go and do the maintenance on top of it, depending on what exactly needs to be done. So their engineers would look at it and say, oh, there's some potholes they need to be filled, or oh, we need to do the overlay on top of it. I'm talking about Allendale because that's what I can speak to, because that's the arrangement that we made. But in the case of County Road 22, I don't know that we're going to do damage, but if we were, we would be happy to cover it.
Well, we didn't have that much construction coming. We're way more prepared than well, the next day, so so you guys.
I've said it 3 times, I can say it again. If we cause damage. I've said it 3 times, I can say it again. If we cause damage to the road, we're happy to cover the maintenance to make that place. At a half mile mid-threes. If it's louder, we need to work on either trees or berms or walls or do something to make sure that it raises.
So are you gonna check in with citizens of the city on their sound waves?
We've got an old, I feel like suspect that they're getting called.
I just, I
Yeah,
feel like to know that you're sure. So, like we were saying, we all this community, but again, it's all community. And I specifically had a lot of experience with people with so that's why I'm concerned. Everybody in this building and especially children, like, been very excited to sort of us right off the wall.
I really encourage you to go to Allendale and go to these districts I talked about. I don't know what I think that if you go to visit, you'll find that it's not what you think.
Check 1, 2. I'm an actual Harwood resident. I'm also, I work for the bank in town. I'm also the treasurer for Zion Lutheran Church, and I'm looking forward to the contribution in the form of endowment to supporting the church. You know, I think the one thing, I guess more of a message, before I ask my question, the message to the community is, you know, we're less than 2 years away from a diversion being done. The reality is urban sprawl is probably coming our way, whether we like it or not. And it's really up to us as a community, in partnership with the city council to ensure that we manage it and keep our identity as best we can as a community. Like, I love Harwood. I'm super proud to be a Harwood resident. And you know what, we should be welcoming residents, the right types of residents. So one of my questions, and let me finish my context before I get to the questions, but one of my questions is once we get past the frustrations and the difficult challenges that go into a construction project of this magnitude, but is in the sustainability for the types of jobs that will be brought to this facility, you know, the types of, just in general, what types of jobs are going to be there, and maybe kind of talk on that. But again, you know, the big thing for me, I guess, for the city is, you know, thinking about it, how, like, in terms of, you know, understanding where the industrial parts of our city are going to be, what parts are going to be the residential components. The truth is, it's school in the right place. I mean, it's wedged right now between the railroad track, which provides great noise, and you know, I've got enough mental issues that I don't know what the buzzing will do. But, you know, like honestly, like, you know, that's part of the conversation we need to have as a city, understanding, you know, what this looks like and the active participants in it. So that's, I think, the general reality. So I'll go back to my first question of, you describe the types of jobs, permanent jobs that will be coming as a result of the city.
Yeah, so a lot of the work is electrical. As I was asked multiple times about the size, the capacity, it's a lot of electrical infrastructure inside of the facilities. So there's maintenance that goes on with that, there's moving of circuits, there's just general repairs, installations, et cetera. So there's a lot of electrical workers. Mechanical systems, same thing. We've got to move that fluid around. It has to continually move. If it stops moving, it starts breaking. And so it's important that all the pumps and everything's tested all the time, and it all works very well. So electrical, mechanical, carpentry, plumbing, security, facilities maintenance, repairs, stuff like that.
Right. It's like a whole city.
Yeah, it's a city's worth of infrastructure in a relatively small amount of space. Plus, there are some high-end IT jobs, but the bulk of the jobs are really those things: electrical, mechanical, etc.
Okay. The one thing I guess that I noticed in this slide that the bank I work for actually has branches in Lemoore and both, so very close to Ellendale. And I know they're dealing with some infrastructure challenges that I don't know that we'll have the same infrastructure challenges just due to our proximity to Fargo. Things like grocery stores, access to groceries, things of that nature. But the one right on one of your initial slides, you know, you're talking about 900 acres here in Harwood compared to 300 acres in Ellendale. Yeah, Ellendale is a larger facility than the
Yeah, I can answer that. That's a good question.
And so, yeah, can you reconcile the difference in the need for essentially 2 or 3 times the amount of acreage for a smaller facility?
Yeah, so we've contracted a larger amount of acreage because we want to make sure that as we work through things with folks that we have appropriate amounts of setback from others. We don't want to be right on this gentleman's house over here. And so in order to make sure that we do that, we have to do a couple of things. One, distance. And number 2, I talked about briefly in the presentation, just while I was talking, not in writing, compatible uses, right? So if you take something that's, I'm going to, talk about data center, and you put something next to it, like industrial or distribution or warehouse or something else, you kind of feather that out to eventually you get to say mixed use or residential or something. By the time you get from data center to the other use types, you kind of absorbed all of that noise inside of it. So I've been told, by a bunch of folks, just what you said about the diversion. As the diversion finishes up, what's happened on the south is it's kind of filling up down there on the horse side of things. And the next logical location for things to start to expand would be up here. And so, as you look at that, having optionality to be able to say, hey, we can build some buffer, we can build some different types of use, make sure that it does work, and that it's not negatively impacting folks is the reason for the land. Wood versus Allendale, it is farther, it's farther out of town, it's more rural, it's a little different.
Yeah, so does that occur after, like, do you guys plan for that now, after the zoning meeting on Tuesday, scheduled for Tuesday? Or how is that dictated? I guess, you know, the current concern would be, it's like, well, you have 3 times the land, and you build 3 times the building, right? Now that's significantly different issue.
Yeah, so the actual footprint of the 2 buildings that we've been talking about is 160 acres, it's less than 160 acres. That's the entirety of the space that those 2 take up.
All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer. I'm a little nervous, I'm not sure. I'm a resident over 20 years, and I have 2 questions. I worked with I use ChatGPT.
Hey, there you go.
Exactly, right, okay. I worked with the city council on a building project, and I can't imagine any of them doing something that's not good for Harwood. But I've seen a lot of stuff online that is talking negatively about it. So can Applied Digital speak to those conversations of these now, since there is an NDA for them that's not being copied? But I don't think they do like crazy deals under the table now. But that's what I think it's because it's NDA. So can you speak to the conversations you did have with Harwood or the council?
Yeah, and I can also say that the reason for the NDA, somebody asked earlier about why an NDA, right? So the press went out on Monday, so it's public that we're building this. If you want to talk to the folks that we talked to, I don't know if they're here, I can find cases quickly. They're free to talk to you about it at this time. So they're welcome to talk to you about it. Whoever said that, if you want it in writing from me, I mean, whoever heard that has met with us, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. So the conversations we have had are about compatibility. There's been conversations about, is this the right area? It could be or it could not be. I mean, I think that's certainly a conversation that will be had and needs to be had. I think that a lot of the feedback I got is that side of town is probably a good place to have commercial, industrial, kinds of uses. There's certainly been some conversations about the potential for annexation. We asked to be annexed in Allendale because we thought that it was important for us as a company to invest in the town in which we're asking people to live. That includes schools, roads, police officers, the fire department, you name it. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. It's 1.8 million square feet of space. There's a lot of conversations to have. There really are. And here we are. I'm here. I'm here. I'll take all of your questions. You guys can beat me up if you want. That's fine. Make jokes, accuse me of things, whatever. But the real question is, I think these are valuable conversations for us to have, and we should have them. You can email us. We can have a conversation. We'll have coffee with you. We'll sit down and chat. I got off track on the question, so we'll be back.
Well, no, I appreciate you, and just knowing that they can speak on it now, because it was, people they're not speaking on it, and it's like, it makes everyone think, well, what's happening? And so
They
it's
can't make any deals, and frankly, when we first tried to have conversations, it was, we don't want to talk to you about something. And we're like, well, we just need to know if this is even in the realm of possible before we get out there. Because if we just announce a project, we would be having this meeting for possibly no reason. And instead, now we're having a detailed conversation where I can say, this is what I think we're going to do. You can talk.
Makes sense. The other part of it, actually, the annex part is kind of leads into my next question. Actually, the land is partly in Harwood and partly in Fargo. However, tax revenues and fees from this being figured, so Harwood benefits too. Being that Fargo really isn't going to be impacted as much, we're going to get the noise, the traffic, other impacts. How do we make sure that we get our fair share of the tax base and fees and not just Fargo?
Yeah, so There's a few pieces of property involved. Some of them are in the Harwood ETA. Some of them are in the Fargo ETA. What we're working on, what we would like to build now is all in the Harwood ETA. So that's the side of the line. The line is there. That's the side of it that we're on. Where she went. Oh,
Awesome, so it is getting a little bit late, we do want to give everybody an opportunity to get up and ask some questions. There's a couple of people asking some second questions, so before we allow the next one to go, is there anybody else that would like to stand up and ask a question that has not yet had a chance to speak?
Yeah, when do we get to vote on this?
So I would encourage you to chat with your city council members. I mean, honestly.
Sold us out. Don't get the vote.
We don't want it!
What's the vote? Mayor?
Where's it all?
Seems like the mayor's afraid to answer that question. I'll answer it. Come on, our next scheduled council meeting is September 2nd, which this will be discussed. For everybody here, we've not voted on anything. There's no approval of zoning change. There's no approval of a zoning permit. And it may or may not happen on the 2nd. I don't know. And I can't, I would make that decision. It's got to go through planning and zoning, and then it goes to council, which will happen in September, a regularly scheduled meeting. We expect a lot of people there, and, never, okay. Okay, should I repeat myself?
No.
Okay, I'm not gonna dodge the question. We haven't spoke about this in council, we haven't voted on anything. Okay, well, when 8 people are talking at the same time, it defeats the purpose. And everyone comes here and is angry. Everyone's angry, right? I mean, come on, guys. Let's be respectful and have a decent conversation, not attack
You
people.
know why we're angry? Because this wasn't announced until the news. All of us that live in Harwood came here for a reason, to live here in peace. If we wanted to be living in a big town with a bunch of people, we would move 4 miles that way. I came from a small town. My husband came from a small town. Our kids go to school here. And you sold us out by going to the Ellendale facility. So don't sit there and say that you didn't do anything, because it was in the news saying that you visited it and said it's a great idea.
I do think it's a good idea.
I think it's a shit idea.
Majority of the comments I've got from people at Harvard think it's a good idea.
Loser. Guess who's not getting a vote next time?
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe you probably is. We don't even have enough people that ever run. So.
Why not just do the right thing?
So again, it just turns south. I mean, are you guys not capable of having a calm, rational, factual conversation? Or is it just accusing, yelling, words? I mean, come on. We didn't come here as council members, and I can't speak for pledges, we didn't come here to have a screaming match and be
I
name
just think
called.
that the frustration is that, like you say, the people at Harwood, we just feel like we had no input. Nobody told us anything.
I have a microphone, I'm trying to give her so she can talk. It's not your land.
All right, guys, so we do want to make sure that this is controlled. We're not going to get anywhere with a lot of outbursts. If you guys have questions, we would love to hear your guys' voices. If you guys would line up in the middle, let's control this a little bit more and make sure that the people that have questions are actually able to speak and ask the questions that they need. So if anybody else has questions, more than happy to pass the mic to you guys, so we can continue to hear you guys out. But if we don't just continue to interrupt each other, we're not going to get anywhere the rest of the night. So if you guys have questions, we'd love to hear it from you guys. It's not fair to anybody to cut each other off. We all got a voice, we all want to talk, so let's make this a little bit more controlled if we could. I think I saw a question over here. Yep, I'm trying to get everywhere.
It's short, so it's not set at height requirements. It's not going to impact the atlas. I'm actually a pilot also, and I'm concerned about the atlas. It's not in the way of the atlas. I could guess, but it's not intended to the atlas.
Did you say that to
Yeah, so the location that we're talking about is
the visual learner?
Yep, that works.
Well, not really, ask them. We're trying to answer. I'm trying to
Alright, so while we get set up, I did want to quickly introduce myself. I know that they gave me a quick introduction. My name is Mark Big. I work as a community operations with Applied Digital. I've actually spent a lot of my time in Ellendale, North Dakota while we've been building this data center. So when Nick talks about the community impact that Applied Digital has, he talks about the people that are on ground every single day that live in those communities to make sure that we listen to our communities, we listen to the residents, to make sure that we're good neighbors. So my role in Ellendale, North Dakota has been to live there and understand and be able to sympathize with the residents that are there on every concern that comes up. And we plan on doing the exact same thing in Harwood. So in Ellendale, I've sat every single Thursday. I sit with the coffee crew. It's a group of elderly ladies. I get to understand everything that they talk about. I get to understand the concerns. I'm at every township meeting. I go to all of the presentations that the community has in regards to the data center. We've done really extensive amount of work to make sure that we listen to the community, we listen to the residents, that all these things are taken care of. So in my time in Ellendale, we resolved a lot of the concerns that came up, and we plan on doing the same thing in Harwood. So now I'm having a person that is in Harwood that's going to have to get a base representation, that's going to sit down, chat with the local community, get these concerns, and create solutions that make sense for everybody. We want to be good neighbors. We're bringing employees to the area. It doesn't make sense for us to, cause negative reactions. We really want to show the signs of support and commitment to the community. So if you guys have any questions in regards to the city operations, happy to chat after this meeting, happy to talk about you guys. And back over to Nick.
Sorry, it's this area here. This? That's much far on the west, it's outside the park. Louis. It's farther west. Yes. It's closer to Mapleton than here, but it's not Mapleton either. So this is the area right here.
Do I stay?
So we control our permanent employees at the site. So for those employees, they have to have
And what about the 700 stuff?
the mostly North Dakota-based businesses that have those workers here, and we have some folks here that we want to talk to. They can probably answer that. I can't answer for them, but I think that maybe you guys, if you're interested, if not, then.
Anybody want to answer that?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason, I'm the president of the trade union. We have about 750 workers down at the Ellendale site. They will all go through background check. They are union members from North Dakota, or sometimes maybe travelers from around the country. But they've all been vetted.
Hold it up to your mouth.
Sorry, can you hear me? No. I just heard you had to hear me. Loud noise. Out of East Denver, community right here. 3 miles outside. When I moved here 15 years ago, Denver Silver residents, since the hurricanes when it came through, right? We have got about 10 million acres. Many more. Nobody wanted to go to their houses. In the development like we had for like 3 times in 15 years, right? So I think this is a forever solution for all the neighbors. I'm in the city. Microphone by your mouth. Mic by your mouth.
Put the mic on.
Take the microphone.
Is it on? So these guys asking to be part of the tax base voluntarily. I don't know if it's bad. You guys you know, the Allendale project down there where they got traffic or ENS, to be part of that, voluntarily tax themselves. This is probably the same thing you guys have. So, I look at that side. I'm going to deal with truck traffic coming into the work. Some of you deal with all the stuff going on for construction. But you guys don't need to deal with it. You know, tax, they want to participate in the tax base voluntarily. So a lot. Somebody else earlier said, well, where's the profits go with prison? Well, I'm part of it. Right?
far as just being whether it's senior fit, you get, so, I guess I would just ask folks that, progress happens, right? Diversion happens. Somebody's right, the beat crop out the road, so that the folks doing other things. We as a township, decide we're going to fix township roads. That's the PGA, probably the county should sign the same thing. Not sure if it's in those agreements. Well, they have something right? Did version of the township board. So, just something to think about, guys. This project is next. I think that some progress happens. Harwood,
It's fun with the city and there's a township in the same name. That's fine. I like it.
So I do have another question, and this is behalf of some other individuals.
Can I get a Harwood resident question first?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I want to go when I see another Harwood resident in there and I just,
Yeah.
go.
I'd like to hand down some numbers with you, but that's what's otherwise. So the quick one here is, as a private lobby, what's going on? 3 bills, last legislative session, that took away property rights from citizens here and worked to strip away power of local governments. Did that or did not happen?
We did not work to take their
You
property
did not
rights.
lobby.
We did not
Last
lobby.
legislative session,
Sir,
3 bills. Yes or no?
we lobbied 6 bills last session. And none of them took away property rights from property
Not a
owners.
single one.
Not a single
So
one.
the individuals who told me this, bills that I read, you proved that. You didn't present it. Was he lying to you? Did he show the residents that he didn't?
We have not lobbied to take property rights away from them. Correct. Let's get to the next guy. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, my name is Frank, Harwood resident. Construction going on, ready to deal with a lot of trucks and driving through here. There's a school on that side, everybody was on the other side of the highway. Very convinced and help assist with.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Police officer coming in.
Yes.
To help the kids.
Yes.
Get to school.
We spent money to put up speed signs down on the gravel road in front of us to help people not go so fast. We also, actually, I called the state highway patrol and the sheriff multiple times to ask for assistance. We also put cameras out. We also asked some construction workers who decided that they didn't need to stop at stop signs. We invited them to not come back. Because we want people to behave themselves both on and off of our site. So yes, this is a topic that we care very much about, because the last thing we want to see is this.
Crosswalk on something.
I'll have to
The
talk.
cameras, say around color, the speeding tickets, the camera. Yeah, they can do research on it, but research after and bring all the rest. That's what I'm asking is, you guys want to help with these, we have a full-time officer, alternate school officers, just for the protection of all the kids across the road.
We'd have to figure out how that would work with the city, but yes, we would like to work with you on that.
Okay, that's just my thing.
And if there's, what was your name?
My name's Ryan.
Ryan, love to chat with you more about that specifically.
Okay.
If there's problem areas that you saw from past construction, if there's places that you can point out and say, this is a hot spot, whether, you know, you saw incidents or you saw challenges, you'd like to know where those are, so.
We've got officers that caught people right here in town going, right past the school. So that's why the construction of it, as a community, assistance to help us keep speed. That's my concern. Thank you.
Super quick question, Harwood resident. Is the Ellendale facility up and running? Is that
So two things. There is an Ellendale facility that is fully operational, but it's blockchain, it's not identical. The facility that's closer in comparison to it, it's actually 3 stories instead of a single story, so it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. And then there's 2 other buildings that have started construction there that are identical. So there's not a one-for-one comparison to see there, but the one that's nearing completion that we'll be turning on here over the next several weeks is very close, except that it's 3 stories instead of 1. The reason we did that was because we wanted to be able to house the world's fastest supercomputer. To do that, we had to put them closer together, which means stacking it. It's kind of an annoying engineering problem, but it's 3 stories, so it's a bit different, but it's similar. In that building, there's some items that are outside of the building that in the Harwood ones here would be inside. So again, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar. Yeah.
And are there 2 east of the meeting one? You also mentioned
Yeah, so I mean, you heard your mayor back here, you know, talking. We can't move dirt, we can't do construction, we can't do anything on that until there's permits, until there's, that's not done, right? So we would prefer this location, we would like to build here, and we would like to build a relationship with you all and work through this and become a good community member. In order to do that, though, in order to build it, we need to have permission, and the city council has not voted on anything. We need permission to proceed. And so right now, it's been asked, but it needs to be voted on, and unless and until it's voted on, it's not happening. And so we would like to see it happen. That's what I just showed on the map a month ago, but we're not there yet. And so we have another potential location of that. Any more Harwood residents?
Why that location versus west of town?
We'd like to be on the inside of the diversion.
Oh, there.
I mean, Frank, we'd like to be on the inside of the diversion. Right, I mean, it's a reasonable building. Any more Harwood residents before you go something? Go ahead. Hold on, we're not doing that. Come on.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm Ella, I'm from Harwood. And earlier you said you're for sure building, but now you said that you're not for sure building because it hasn't approved yet.
For sure building this facility somewhere, yes.
But you don't know it.
We would like to build it.
But you're starting next month.
We would like to start next month.
But you don't have a spot.
We do have a spot if we get it.
If you get it. You don't have a spot. You have a maybe spot. And if you don't go there, then you're going out west. So why can't they choose the out west location earlier?
I just answered a second ago. We'd like to be on the inside of the diversion.
But you don't know for sure you're going there.
If we get the diversion.
Right.
How building is zoning?
Is there a question?
Yeah, so why can you see where out west, the other one is? Like where would that be?
This is the site we'd like to build. This is where we're planning. I don't know what the site we'd like to build.
So we can't see other locations? That's my question. Can we see the other locations?
No. I said yes.
But that's not what we're doing. So it's kind of irrelevant.
Because I said that.
You don't live here, go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Here answering questions, show you. This is a Harwood meeting. If I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody else, I'd like to have a conversation with that somebody else. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're picking up the line.
And that's all, that's all.
I would start with our track record.
I would love to just take it over here, you know, work correctly, but I was
You don't need that. How much?
You should buy
well, it's fun, yes.
I don't think anybody knows what you're
I
asking.
don't know if you heard me, actually.
We can barely hear you, Matt.
We
So I
didn't hear
think
it.
it's unfair to call somebody out in a forum that's not that fashion. You have to be able to hear other people.
Yeah, I tried to call. The question was, how do we make sure that those promises that we're being told, which I would love to believe that I live here, I hope it turns out that way. But how do we ensure that that does happen?
So I live here as well, and just a case in point, if we annex into the city, and the city has laws. There you go. We have laws governing setbacks, we have laws governing water usage, we have laws governing noise ordinances, population, capacity, all that stuff. So there, it's all covered.
Are you specific for data centers?
How is it different than any other industrial or
But that's not true. You're serviced by a cooperative, which doesn't follow the same regulations as I do.
Yes, and they can.
If we annex them into the city, they'd have to obey by some.
Your rates are
Do we want the money or do we want them? Which one? Harwood gets the money or Harwood does? We have the money, right? Like,
You don't understand how businesses operate, profit, loss. We already saw you represent that.
Hey, you guys can put your meeting. So my name is Cody, you're going to look for I'm here for this work management, and you open this up all the time. Slap the face in the ass. We all want investments in our communities, both good ones, positive ones. Why I came here today, some of my cohorts, is because right now in Ellendale, we've got over 650 local people working out here for something that's gonna hopefully be a good investment in that community. Like they were seeing earlier, it's investment in Ellendale, people there, it's a small town that's been down. Okay? You live close to Fargo, there's gonna be investments in this area. But I can't tell you about this company, what they've done, the promises they made to us, and been doing the last 3 years. It's gonna be able to do it. Everything in Canada, we have over 100 people from Fargo working down there for 3 years, making 6 figures. I got 55 operators out there right now from the North Dakota area that we do that take over 2 years. So what I'm here talking about is jobs, good paying jobs that are local. This could be a different contract or a different company coming in here, bringing people from down south, money goes to their pocket, and they go to take it home. I think everything, communities are invested eventually or it's gonna die. And I'm not saying this is it, what I'm saying is give it a chance, listen. Yeah, it was last minute, I thought the road was meeting Saturday, at 2:1, and I worked with it.
labor and local infrastructure. That's my job as Laker. So when you're worried about the crime rate, it's gonna be low. It's not gonna be at all. You know why? Because local people doing the project is not the people coming from Mexico, Alabama, down south that don't know about here, don't care about our communities. That's who you're working here. When you talk about your school investment, this building's gonna put more property taxes in this community than all of us put together in the next 10 years. That's investments in schools, hospitals, fire departments. You can be against it all you want, but please, from this area, have a good reason to. Not something right on the internet, not something you see in the stock market. Talk to them, ask them. Come talk to me, come talk to these guys up here. We've got the laborers here, we've got iron workers here. All of us have been watching this for 3 years, and it's been awesome. Allendale was the same as this, year one. Oh my God, the farmers were pissed. I want to riot. Everybody was furious, and I did it because you don't know about it. It's happening in your backyard. You don't know what's going to happen. But basically, I'm here for labor. I support it. It's been a great experience in Allendale. He told one of the stories about Jamestown getting a guy or getting a job that works down there now. He didn't say anything about the people that work at Walmart in Jamestown that also have jobs down there. They went from 30K a year to 80 to 90K. That's an investment. So thank you for your time. Be patient. Give this guy a chance. Give everybody else a chance. Thanks.
Alright, my name's Anna. I'm also a Harwood resident. Unfortunately, I was a sister, so I have a very similar question. I know we're not going to get the White Maps. I guess that's a done deal. Can you please explain why you want to be inside of the neighborhood so bad that you won't explain why you don't even consider how much being an option if the plan is in the vote, don't really approve them? Yeah, I actually live right outside of the Durban area, so I'm there, construction's going on, I'm backyard.
Hey, you talk about not interrupting people, man. How about you just get our advice?
I would like for him to explain.
I think it's obvious why we would like to be on the inside of the diversion, due to the flooding concerns. That's our reasoning, that's my reasoning. I don't know what else to tell you to help you understand that more.
Well, with the diversion wrapping up in around 2 years, but your construction program for Ellendale still hasn't been wrapped up in the last 4 years, 3 years currently. I'm just wondering.
Not quite, yeah, it's been about 2 years now.
So if the similar timeline here, maybe even shorter, with the thing, the diversion project should be probably wrapped up by then, so really flooding shouldn't be that much of a concern anymore, otherwise our diversion.
There's no point in talking about the second site that we want to be in this site, and I've said it already. This is our primary site that we would like to be. There's no reason to talk about anything else. This is where we want to be. And we think that being part of this community, paying taxes in this community, helping to fund schools and roads and police and medical and all the things that the community needs is where we want to be. And if for some reason that doesn't work out, then we'll figure something else out. But we would like to just be here. So there's no sense in talking about another potential location where this is the location that we want to be. And so that's the answer. We'd like to be on the inside of the diversion for obvious reasons. It's not obvious. I think there's some locals here who might be able to explain to you why the diversion is happening and why you might want to be on the inside of it. And this is where we want to be.
We're investing $3 billion in this project. Or like that, some confidence in our plan.
Who's we?
Yeah, who's we?
Did you ask Amazon or did you ask Green, did you ask all the businesses, like, why did you choose the location? Is this a good investment? Please explain to me. This is what we do. I'm sorry that we have a lot of people process. And we explain to me. This is what we do. I'm sorry that we have a lot of people process. Go through, and we spend a lot of the time trying to understand if this is the location we chose. This is where we would like to be. It's on the inside of the direction. So there. I answered the question. If you have another one, I'd be happy to answer another.
Thank you. Hi, can everyone hear me? Cool, thanks. My name is Rain. I live around 15 minutes away. I was wondering how many megawatts a day will this factory use?
So that's not exactly how it works, so the peak capacity is 200 feet.
Okay, so like on the worst day, you'll use 200 maybe?
Hottest hour, the hottest day is 208 megawatts.
Okay. In Ellendale, you use 132 on the hottest day?
That's one of the buildings, yes.
Okay. So it's around 150,000 pounds of coal being burned to produce 132 megawatts. I'm just wondering, how will you offset like the carbon emissions of burning that much coal?
So I'm sorry to tell you that I haven't done the math, and it's not entirely only coal. I think we have folks here from the power companies, but there's a mix of energy that goes into the grid. There's a mix of wind, there's coal, there's natural gas, there's hydro, there's all sorts of different power sources.
You didn't do anything by accident. You guys have been chuckling back here the whole time. You're disrespectful. Yeah, I don't.
However, you're using the.
You're being disrespectful. You think you're funny? Oh. Please. No. No. Get these people out of here. You're being disrespectful. That lady, this guy right here, he laughs at everything.
All right.
You guys recently like the Dakota grid, right?
I'm not.
Around half of the North Dakota grid does use coal, which does affect the air quality in the area. I have really bad asthma, and so that affects my quality of life. Like, when I was a kid, I didn't have to wear rain, and it would use, but now I do, unfortunately. So, will you be donating to like charities or something? Or like, you have no plan for that?
So we try to use a reasonable mix of power. In Ellendale, for example, we've chosen to be in that location because of the amount of wind that's nearby there. And this is a power, this is a mix of what's on the grid. This is not us. This is not, we're not generating power, we're utilizing power. I don't really have, so unless you guys will talk about it, I don't really have, the ability to talk about this right now.
What is the question?
I am basically just wondering how you're going to offset the carbon emissions by, you're using this much power, so it is your responsibility.
Yeah, we have in our portfolio, the Dakota portfolio was 56 roughly percent coal and about 34% wind. So currently we don't add, we're not building facilities, new facilities to feed this. In the future, we may need to build future power plants to serve them. That will be paid for, the portion that's built for them will be paid for by them.
Oh, so you're going to like donate to future power plant updates?
Donate to what?
You're going to fund future power plant updates?
No. So what I said is right now, we're not building any new facilities to feed this load. We have the resources. In the future, we may need to build new facilities. That portion to serve them will be paid for by them.
I don't think
Are
that's...
you a Harwood resident?
No, but I live close by.
You? No, I'm not a Harwood resident. Never said I was.
somebody unionized?
We are not.
Then what are the baseline worker benefits?
We offer all sorts of benefits, so we have, I don't know if that was my mic or your mic, sorry. So we have all sorts of benefits, including healthcare, we have retirement accounts, we have high-paying jobs, we do lots of training. One of these gentlemen over here mentioned our workforce training. So the example he talked about was we took the individual that was a night shift manager at a Walmart, brought him in as our entry-level position, and over a course of less than 2 years, he went from that entry-level position to running a facility. He's another one of those. He joined as our entry-level position. He went to run a facility for us, and now he works on the community side of things. So in terms of benefit, taking workers from not being in the industry and training them up is a huge benefit, plus the other thing I mentioned, healthcare, retirement, etc.
All right, and then I believe my follow-up question is, how much yearly, this is a little invasive, would someone, say, Nick's position be making versus the average worker a year?
There's a range of positions that are all going to have different types of income levels, and there's also going to be a range of skill sets inside of there and an ability for folks to move up. We have consistently paid well over the median income for the areas in which we operate. We want to attract high-quality workers. I think that these guys back here just talked about some of the wages for some of the construction jobs that we've had to pay in order to attract folks to come to our facilities. And I think that those compensations are fair, and we're attracting enough employees to come work for us. So it's a free market, right? If we put out wages that don't make sense, people won't come to work for us. There's a competitive job market in this area. In the state, the unemployment level is very, very low. I think maybe Joe might know those numbers off the top of his head better than me, but it's a market. We have to compete.
All right. I just want to make a quick announcement. After this gentleman, we're not going to answer any more questions because it is getting late. We are going to stick around after the event, though, so if you guys do want to talk to us individually and ask us questions, more than happy to answer and listen to you guys. But it is getting late, so we're going to cut off the questions after this individual here. So no more questions on the mic. We'll do individual questions at the very end if you guys want to come up and talk. Thank you guys.
Could I please get a comparison between that and your competitive futures?
So the range is going to be market adjusted, and it's going to be higher than the current averages, is what I can tell you. We'll get there when we're able to announce those jobs, but if you'd like to apply for a job, feel free to reach out to us.
Again, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking
I can't give you a specific number that I just make up off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
You don't know the range? No.
I don't know the range of every single role off the top of my head. I can tell you in Illinois, our average is over 65,000, but I don't know what it's going to be here. That's not going to be necessarily the same number because this area, Harwood, is not the same as Illinois. There's different areas that are going to dictate ranges, and you're also going to see from 1 year to the next that they change. We're talking about building a facility over 12 to 14 months approximately, and 12 to 14 months from now, job markets may be different, and we may have different wages. We're not there.
Alright, I appreciate the 65,000. However, I'm asking how much someone in, say, Nick's position would be making, especially compared to that 65,000, which I know is a basic question. I respect if you can't do that, but I'm just wondering if that's.
You're asking about what do I make versus an average worker?
Sure.
I want to talk to you about my income. I have been doing a lot of different things for a long time with a lot of different experience. What do you do for your job? Where do you work? How much do you make? I mean, okay, this is my, why should I share my personal information?
Understandable, but I would just.
Let's take the next question. You asked it a few times, I answered it. Thank you. You guys
And then I could zoom.
You're probably not to Yeah, it's better.
Hi, my name is Melissa.
There's more work this month than I have worked in my last 3 years combined.
My question is,
Somebody asked earlier about permitting and things we have to do in that regard. We do have to submit to DEQ and other agencies the reports that we do, and they're publicly available once they're submitted.
do you guys know?
I don't know offhand, I don't have an answer for you, sorry.
Thank you. My name is Paul. I've been checked for about 10 years. And so I have a question for everyone. Just one comment. So I was here with somebody who mentioned my second lawsuit. Citation would be will be applied to the corporation as out. I can also be applied you have a question for it? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm also being that, I'm not saying you're something very multinational, keep out on all of this like that. When the same people coming out and saying, you can say I is actually in the bubble, what are you going to do if you can't raise money anymore? And you have to keep people out on their raise money. By the inception, with the facilities, do you have any kind of wind down plans?
We certainly don't have a wind down plan. We've used these facilities for 15 plus years. And so there's not a scenario where we just say, oh, we spent $3 billion and oops, the facility is just not going to happen. You can't fund $3 billion of investment if you don't have long-term plans. And I'm certainly not,
Do you think AI is in the bubble? What's that? Do you think AI is in the bubble?
I do not know.
I was just wondering if it sounds like you basically are going to go to this regardless of that. Mostly on stuff like that. Is there still a bidding opportunity or contract on the shop groundbreaking in less than a month? I'd assume that most of the bidding is already complete.
So let's talk about what we like to get done as a company. So starting in 2021, starting in 2021, we broke ground in September of 21, and our hope was to get operational before the winter. At that time, I thought this is our first project as a company. We're going to have construction in the winter in North Dakota, which is not a time that most people have construction in North Dakota. And my thought there was, we'll never do this again. This will be fine. We're only going to do construction in North Dakota in the spring, summer, fall. Turns out we're a winter construction company, and we've done construction every single winter in North Dakota ever since. So the thing for us as an organization is we need to get far enough along in the construction in order to get through the winter, right? You can't pour foundations in the winter because the ground is too cold. You can't do certain work if the walls aren't up and things like that. So the early work needs to get done, and it needs to get done quickly so that we can then work throughout the whole winter. We have not hired every single one of the contractors, every single one of the vendors. There's absolutely an opportunity. If you're interested in chatting with these gentlemen in the third row here, if you're in any of those trades, I'm sure they'd love to chat with you. I don't know if some of our other construction folks are still here or not, but you can also just chat with me or afterwards. We'd be happy to talk to you. We very much like to work with locals as much as possible. In Ellendale specifically, when we got there was one restaurant. It was bought by a family from a lady who retired. She was wanting to retire. The son ended up running it. he wasn't, he didn't run a successful restaurant business and shut it down. There's now 4 restaurants in Ellendale. We've been involved in every single one of those 4 restaurants in that we buy a lot of food from them. We try to do everything we can to keep them going. They sell food, of course, to locals and everybody else, but we try very, very hard to buy as much as we can from them whenever we do events, and we buy from locals. The lumberyard there, we've sent their contractors to, they can buy from other places. We ask them to spend money. At the local lumberyard, we ask them to spend money at the local food store. We ask them to spend money in the town, and ask them to contribute to things that are going on, because we want to interact and do business with locals as much as we can. So there's absolutely opportunity, and we prefer it. If there's anything we can do together, we love it.
I feel like though, helping you guys get a footing in this town, we're trying to treat our local resources. And we have food track operations, like exhibition businesses. I mean, a lot of these guys are looking for work anyway, they're offset, they're rather us take it than you guys do. Some guy out of Texas.
We want the guys who are right here, and then you get to go home at night to your family, right here. That's what we prefer.
Hi, I'm not a Harwood resident, but I've been a North Dakota resident my whole life. I grew up my first half of life in North Dakota, Garrison, North Dakota, and I think it does concern North Dakota. I've seen what some of the corporate interests have done to my grandfather was a carpenter farmer up there. I've seen just some of the corporate interests of oil. I'm not saying it wasn't a good thing, but my understanding is correct. You guys are AI, right? This is for future AI, right?
Those buildings are for AI, yeah.
So you're not producing anything.
They are producing.
No physical, the oil refineries produce oil, coal produces coal, wind turbines get wind energy, etc. You are just doing the further of AI, right? No, nothing physical is being produced. It's all for artificial intelligence, correct?
Yes.
And I think this will be one of many AI companies that move here, because I know they've been looking at North Dakota for quite some time. So, what are you guys doing to protect it from our power grids being susceptible to cybersecurity attacks from third parties, from foreign entities? For example, the power grid in Texas was shut down for a while by a third party. Conflict does arise. Countries like China could, and you plan on building all these AI centers in my state, where I've grown up my whole life. I think it is concerning.
We're not controlling the grid. We don't connect to the parts.
So you make it more of a target. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think that that's accurate, and if you'd like to talk about it some more later, that's fine, but I disagree with what you're saying. I think AI is a tool. I think that AI is furthering what we're able to do as a society. I think that AI is going to allow us to do a lot of interesting things in terms of medical, in terms of the things that you're talking about over here, in terms of finding solutions to the problems that you all care about. And I think that it's a great tool that's going to benefit us. And I think that what we're producing, while you can't physically touch it, there's all sorts of products and things that you use on a daily basis that aren't physical goods, like coal or other things.
Coal is a physical good. I mean, it is of this world. It is a natural resource. This whole AI thing, it's not physical.
Okay.
I mean, you did these computers to generate, etc., but to say that it will not make it a threat, a cybersecurity threat, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, look at China, the trillions of dollars they've invested in AI. We're following them right behind them. So to build all these AI data centers in my state, it's putting a target. It's like storing nuclear weapon silos, which are here.
The actual nuclear silos that are actually here. I mean, this is your opinion. I respect that you have an opinion about it. I disagree, and I don't think I hear a question here, so.
I asked what you're doing cybersecurity-wise. Like, is there anything in that realm?
There's lots that you're doing on the cybersecurity side. Can I go into great detail about what that is? Absolutely not.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Back from this. All right, well, that was great. Thanks, everybody. We're going to hang around here. Feel free to chat with us. Love to chat with you some more. Get to know us. You've got our email. You can reach out to us, community@appliedbusiness.com. Thank you all for coming. If you haven't been well, please take them. Even if you have to be sick, please take them. There's also water.